Mama, why does Daddy kiss Aunt Melissa when you're at work? The words landed softly. Too softly. For a split second, I didn't even register them as dangerous. They sounded like any other innocent question. Sticky with spaghetti sauce, said between bites of garlic bread, spoken in the careless rhythm only a 6-year-old has. Then my brain caught up. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. The air in the room thickened, like someone had pressed pause on reality. Across the table, my husband didn't just tense up. He locked up. His shoulders went rigid. His jaw tightened so hard I could see the muscle jump beneath the skin. His fork slipped from his fingers and clattered against the plate, sharp in the sudden silence. The kitchen clock kept ticking, loud, deliberate, each second stretching longer than the last. I looked at my daughter, 6 years old, feet swinging under the chair, sauce on her chin, no fear, no awareness, just a child casually describing what she'd seen, the way kids do when they don't yet understand which truths are supposed to stay hidden. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I asked, keeping my voice gentle, even as my heart began to pound hard enough to make my ears ring. She shrugged. "Daddy's friend comes over when you're at work. They sit on the couch, they kiss. Like how you and Daddy used to kiss." Used to. The word lodged itself somewhere deep in my chest. I turned slowly toward my husband. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His gaze stayed fixed on his plate, knuckles whitening around the edge of the table. His breathing was shallow, controlled, like he was bracing for impact. "Answer her," I said. My voice didn't shake. That frightened me more than if it had. "Answer your daughter." Silence. My daughter's face crumpled slightly, confusion creeping in. Did I say something bad? "No, baby," I said quickly, pushing my chair back as I stood. My legs felt weak, like the floor might tilt beneath me. "You didn't do anything wrong." I told her to get her favorite stuffed animal, her tablet, told her we were going to Grandma and Grandpa's house for a sleepover, promised ice cream on the way. Her eyes lit up instantly. She ran upstairs without hesitation, because kids are resilient like that, even when their world is quietly collapsing behind them. When we were alone, my husband finally looked up. His face was tight, controlled. His eyes glassy, but no tears fell. Whatever he was feeling, he was forcing it down with sheer will. "Please," he said, voice low and strained. "Let me explain." "Don't," I said, raising my hand. "Not now, not in front of our child." Because there are moments in a marriage when everything changes in a single sentence. And I knew, deep in my bones, that no explanation could ever erase the image of my daughter watching her father kiss another woman in our home, and thinking it was normal. That night, I took my daughter's hand and walked out. I didn't know it yet, but that was the exact moment my marriage ended, and the fight for my child began. Before that night, if anyone had asked me to describe my marriage, I would have said it was solid. Not perfect, not cinematic, but steady in the way grown-up lives tend to be. We met in our late 20s, past the phase of chaos and dramatic breakups. We were both tired of games. Both said we wanted the same things: commitment, a home, a family that felt safe. He wasn't flashy. That was part of what drew me in. He showed up on time. He listened more than he talked. When he said he'd do something, he did it. In a world full of men who love potential more than follow-through, he felt reliable, grounded, someone I could build with. We married after 3 years together. A small wedding, close family, no drama, no red flags waving in the background. I remember thinking, this is what stability feels like. When our daughter was born, everything narrowed into her. The nights blurred together, feedings, diapers, exhaustion so deep it felt physical. He worked long hours. I picked up more of the home side, not because I was forced to, but because it made sense at the time. We slipped into roles without ever really discussing them, the way a lot of couples do when life starts moving faster than conversation. He provided, I managed. From the outside, we looked like the picture people aim for. A house in a quiet neighborhood, private school because we wanted opportunities, family dinners most nights, even if they were rushed, weekends at the park, birthdays documented in photos that still live on my phone, smiling faces frozen in time. But somewhere along the way, the space between us grew. Not loudly, not in obvious ways. It was subtle. Fewer late-night conversations, less laughter that came from nowhere, touch that became functional instead of instinctive, quick kisses, polite affection, the kind you give because it's expected, not because you're pulled toward the other person. I noticed it, I think he did too, but neither of us said it out loud. When I tried to bring it up, suggesting date nights, asking if he was happy, he'd brush it off, Say he was just tired. Work was stressful. Things would calm down once a project ended, once a deadline passed, once life slowed. Life never slows. Still, I believed in us. I believed that marriages go through seasons, that love didn't have to feel electric to be real. That commitment meant staying even when it felt dull or heavy. And I trusted him. That part matters. Because when he mentioned Melissa, a friend from a hobby group he'd joined, I didn't question it. She came up casually at first. Someone who shared his interests, someone who got it when he talked about stress or feeling boxed in. She came to group dinners, sat across from me at our table, laughed with our daughter, complimented our home. I shook her hand, smiled, welcomed her in. Why wouldn't I? Affairs, in my mind, were loud things, obvious, reckless. They happened in secret hotel rooms or behind locked phones. They didn't sit on your couch. They didn't smile at your child. I told myself we were just tired, that this phase would pass. I didn't know yet that while I was trying to hold our marriage together quietly, something else had already started to take its place. And by the time I understood that, my daughter had already seen it. The first warning signs didn't arrive as alarms. They came as small adjustments, tiny shifts I could almost explain away if I didn't look at them too closely. My husband started staying later at work, but not in the way that came with visible stress or urgency. There were no frantic calls, no complaints about deadlines, just longer evenings. A casual, "I'll be late tonight," text sent after dinner time had already passed. When he did come home, he was lighter. Not happier exactly, just less present. Like his body was in the room, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. He took his phone with him everywhere, the bathroom, the laundry room. Even when he stepped outside to take a call, he'd lower his voice, turn slightly away from the house. If I walked by, the conversation would stop. I noticed. Of course I did. But I told myself I was being paranoid. We'd been together long enough that secrecy felt out of character for him. I didn't want to become the woman who searched phones or counted minutes. So I adjusted instead. I tried harder. I suggested date nights again, cooked meals I knew he loved, left notes in his bag, small reminders that we were still us. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he thanked me. Sometimes he seemed almost uncomfortable, like my efforts were something he didn't know how to receive anymore. The distance didn't close. It shifted. He started talking about Melissa more. Not in a dramatic way, not with excitement, just casually. Too casually. "She gets it," he said once, after a long day. "She understands how exhausting it is to feel responsible for everything." I remember pausing mid-dish, the words sinking in slowly. Responsible for everything. "I understand that too," I said carefully. He nodded. "I know, it's just different." Different. That word stayed with me. She came over more often after that, always when I was working late or running errands. Sometimes I'd come home to find an extra mug in the sink, a faint unfamiliar scent on the couch, the impression of someone else having occupied space that used to be just ours. I asked about it once. "She stopped by to talk," he said easily. Nothing weird. So I let it go. Because there was no proof, no message I could point to, no undeniable line crossed. Just a growing sense that I was no longer the person he turned toward when he needed comfort. Even our daughter noticed changes before I admitted them to myself. She started asking where Daddy was more often, started clinging to me at bedtime. Once, when I tucked her in, she asked, "Is Daddy mad at you?" "No, baby," I said immediately. "Why would you think that?" She shrugged. "He doesn't sit with us on the couch anymore." That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, listening to my husband's breathing beside me, steady, distant, wondering when exactly we'd stopped sharing the same emotional space. I still didn't think he was cheating. Not really. I thought we were drifting, that something needed fixing. I didn't know yet that while I was trying to repair cracks in our marriage, another connection was already taking root, quietly, patiently, right inside our home. And that soon I wouldn't be able to ignore it anymore. I replay that dinner in my head more than I want to admit. Not just the question, but everything leading up to it. The way the house smelled like tomato sauce and garlic. The way my daughter hummed to herself while twirling spaghetti around her fork. The way I'd thought, at least we're all at the table tonight. Normal. That's the lie I was still telling myself. After we left the house, after I buckled my daughter into her car seat and drove in silence while she watched cartoons on her tablet, reality started pressing in from all sides. My hands shook on the steering wheel. I kept my breathing slow and even because panic is loud, and I refused to let her hear it. At my parents' house, everything moved quickly and gently at the same time. My mom took one look at my face and didn't ask questions. My dad set up my old room like it was muscle memory. Within minutes, my daughter was curled up on the bed watching cartoons, safe and distracted. Only then did I step into my dad's office and close the door. That was when I called a lawyer. I left a voicemail. My voice sounded distant even to me, like it belonged to someone else. I need to talk about custody, as soon as possible. It was late, too late for anything to happen that night, but my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Call after call, text after text. My husband's name lighting up the screen over and over again. I didn't open a single one, not because I didn't want answers, but because I knew whatever he said would only complicate the one thing that mattered right now: protecting my child. The lawyer called back the next morning. She was direct, sharp, all business. I liked her immediately. "Do not go back to the house without talking to me first," she said. "Do not have unrecorded conversations with your husband. Document everything." I listened. By then, my husband had already called more times than I could count. I answered exactly twice. Both times I recorded. The first call came that night. "Please come home," he said. His voice was controlled, tight. "We need to talk like adults." "Did you sleep with her?" I asked. A pause, too long. "It's complicated." "Yes or no?" Another pause. "Yes." That was it. I sent the recording to my lawyer immediately. The second call came the next afternoon. "You're being unreasonable," he said. "You just left without hearing my side." "Our daughter watched you," I said. "In our house. Do you understand how messed up that is?" "She's 6. She didn't understand what she saw. She understood enough to ask about it at dinner." Silence. "How many times did this happen?" I asked. "How many times was our daughter home?" "That's not fair. Answer the question." "I don't know. A few times. She was supposed to be napping." I felt something inside me go cold. "So you thought it was fine," I said quietly, "as long as she didn't catch you." "Don't judge me," he snapped. "You're never home. You work constantly. I was lonely." "And your solution," I said, my voice steady, "was to bring another woman into our home, around our child." "I'm done with this conversation," I said. "All communication goes through my lawyer from now on." I hung up. My lawyer told me later that he'd essentially admitted to adultery and exposing a minor to the affair partner. Both mattered. But nothing prepared me for what happened next. That night, my husband showed up at my parents' house. My mom answered the door. I heard raised voices and came downstairs. He looked wrecked, unshowered, clothes wrinkled, eyes sharp with agitation instead of tears. "I need to see my daughter," he said. "Not tonight," I replied. "She's asleep. You can come back tomorrow." "No, I want her now." My dad appeared behind me, arms crossed, solid and unmoving. "You need to leave," my dad said calmly. My husband's voice rose. Accusations spilled out. That I was poisoning our daughter against him. That I was overreacting. That I was destroying our family. Then my daughter appeared at the top of the stairs, rubbing her eyes. "Why is everyone yelling?" Everything stopped. My husband tried to move past me. I blocked him. "Calm down," I said. "You're scaring her." That was when my daughter started crying. My mom rushed up the stairs and scooped her into her arms. My husband stood there, breathing hard, jaw clenched, fists tightening at his sides. "Look what you did," I said. "This is why you can't see her right now." He broke then, not into tears, but into rage, shouting, accusing, refusing to leave. My dad told me to call the police. So I did. By the time they arrived, my husband was sitting in his car, refusing to go. The officers were calm, firm, explained that without a custody order, we both had rights, but that he needed to leave and come back later through proper channels. He screamed that I'd regret this. I believed him. The next morning, my lawyer filed for emergency temporary custody. That was the moment this stopped being a marriage problem and became a legal war. The silence after everything happened was heavier than the shouting. Once the police left, once my parents' house settled back into quiet, once my daughter was asleep again, curled around her stuffed bear like nothing in the world had changed, I finally felt it. The hollow. It wasn't anger yet, not grief either. It was the sensation of something being scooped out of me, leaving space where certainty used to live. I sat on the edge of my old bed staring at the wall, replaying the night frame by frame, wondering how I'd missed it, wondering how long my daughter had been watching things I never should have let become normal. The lawyer moved fast. By morning, paperwork was filed. Emergency temporary custody, grounds clearly laid out. Adultery, exposure of a minor to the affair partner, documented instability. She warned me this would escalate quickly. "She'll fight," my lawyer said, "and she'll fight dirty." I didn't doubt it. By afternoon, I was served papers from my husband's lawyer. He'd filed first, just hours before my filing went through, requesting primary custody, the house, and spousal support. His grounds: abandonment, emotional abuse, alienation. I laughed when I read it. My lawyer didn't. "This is standard," she said. "She's going scorched earth. Judges have seen arguments like this work before." "How?" I asked. "Our daughter literally witnessed it." "6-year-olds don't testify," she replied calmly, "and the other side will argue confusion, coaching, overreaction." That word again. Overreaction. By then, the court had ordered supervised visits at my parents' house. My mom would oversee. I was told to stay upstairs during visits. Any interaction, even accidental, could be twisted. The first visit was quiet. My daughter was happy to see her father. They played with dolls, drew pictures. My mom said everything was appropriate. The second visit wasn't. My husband started asking questions, soft ones, but loaded. Whether I'd said bad things, whether I was being mean, whether she missed him more than me. My mom shut it down immediately. The third visit felt worse in a different way. He brought gifts, too many. Dolls, art supplies, a tablet, despite the fact that she already had one. My mom said it felt like he was trying to buy comfort, buy forgiveness, buy loyalty. Meanwhile, the text didn't stop. 1 minute apologetic, the next accusatory, then pleading, then threatening. "I made a mistake, but you're destroying our family. Think about our daughter. She needs her father." I responded exactly once, per my lawyer's instructions. "Our daughter can see you during supervised visits. I'm thinking about her." His reply came fast. "This is abuse. You're punishing me." I stared at the screen for a long time before setting the phone down. No, I wasn't punishing him. I was reacting to reality. Still, the doubt crept in at night. When my daughter asked when we were going home, when she asked why Daddy wasn't there, when she asked if she'd done something wrong, I told her Mommy and Daddy needed space to work on grown-up things. She accepted that explanation in the way only children can, briefly, without bitterness. That scared me most of all, because kids adapt, and adults like to confuse adaptation with resilience. I wasn't angry yet. I was alert. Every instinct in me had shifted into protection mode, documenting, recording, observing, treating the man I'd built a life with like a hostile witness. Court was coming. And whatever I felt personally no longer mattered. What mattered was making sure my daughter stayed safe, even if that meant burning down the illusion of the family I thought we had. Things didn't explode all at once. They piled up, quietly, relentlessly, until there was no room left to pretend this was still a misunderstanding between two adults. The supervised visits continued, 3 in total before court. On the surface, they followed the rules. My husband showed up on time, spoke softly, played appropriately, but beneath it there was tension, pressure applied in ways subtle enough to deny if questioned. My mom noticed it first. "He's fishing," she told me after the second visit, asking leading questions, trying to see what she'll repeat. The third visit confirmed it. The gifts weren't just excessive, they were strategic. New dolls still in their boxes, an expensive art kit, a tablet she didn't need. My daughter was overwhelmed, eyes darting between excitement and uncertainty, unsure whether it was okay to be happy. "It felt like bribery," my mom said quietly, like he was trying to buy space back into her heart. Then came the call that shifted everything again. My lawyer cleared me to go back to the house once to get work clothes and important documents. She told me not to go alone. So I brought my brother. The moment I opened the door, I knew something was wrong. The house wasn't robbed. It was wrecked. Dishes stacked high in the sink. Laundry everywhere. Furniture shifted out of place like someone had been pacing nonstop. But when I reached my home office, my stomach dropped. My laptop screen was cracked. Papers were ripped, scattered across the floor. Files overturned. Wedding photos face down or shoved into corners. My brother didn't finish his sentence. "Did she—" "Yes," I said quietly. I called my lawyer immediately. She told me to document everything. Photos, video. No cleaning, no confrontation. Get what I came for and leave. That's when I saw the journal. It was sitting open on the kitchen counter. I shouldn't have read it. I did anyway. He's trying to take everything from me. My child, my home, my life. Melissa says I need to fight harder. She says women like me always lose if we don't. I can't lose her. I won't. I photographed the page, closed the journal, left. Later that night, my husband's sister called me. She sounded tired, embarrassed, apologetic. I love my brother, she said carefully, but he's not okay, and this woman, Melissa, she's in his ear constantly. She told me Melissa had been staying at the house, coaching him, convincing him the courts would favor him automatically, that I'd have to pay, that I was manipulating the system. He really believes he's the victim, she said, and she keeps reinforcing it. That was the moment I understood this wasn't just about an affair anymore. It was about influence. Court day came faster than I expected. The judge looked tired before we even started, like he'd seen this exact story play out too many times. My husband arrived polished, controlled, professional clothes, calm expression, the performance of someone determined to look reasonable. His lawyer went first, painted me as absent, overworked, emotionally unavailable, claimed I'd kidnapped our daughter in a rage, that I was alienating him out of spite. Then my lawyer stood. She presented the recordings, the police report, photos of the destroyed office, the journal entry, statements from my parents and my brother. Then came the custody evaluator's report, shared custody, with me as the primary residential parent. The reason was simple: stability. My parents' house was stable. My husband's living situation, with the affair partner involved, was not. When the judge read it out loud, my husband's face changed. Not anger, shock. Like he genuinely believed this outcome was impossible. His lawyer objected, claimed bias, claimed manipulation. The judge shut it down. This isn't the 1950s, he said flatly. The child's welfare comes first. Temporary primary custody was granted to me. Supervised weekend visits for him. 2 weeks for him to vacate the marital home. That's when he lost control. He stood up, yelled, accused the judge of bias, accused me of betrayal. His lawyer had to physically pull him back. Outside the courthouse, he tried to confront me. You did this, he said. You turned everyone against me. I documented what happened, I replied. That's all. As we walked away, he screamed that it wasn't over, that he'd appeal, that I'd regret this. Maybe I would. But for the first time since that dinner, I felt something shift. Not relief, not victory, but the cold clarity that this wasn't going to calm down. It was only going to get worse before it got better. Winning didn't feel like winning. That was the first thing I understood once the adrenaline wore off. I had temporary primary custody. The court had ordered my husband out of the house. On paper, everything pointed in my favor. But at night, lying in my childhood bedroom with my daughter asleep a few feet away, none of that felt like security. It felt like limbo. The house, the one we'd built together, was now a place I couldn't step into without my chest tightening. Every corner held an image I didn't want. Every room felt contaminated by what my daughter had seen there. I couldn't unsee it either. Her small voice at the dinner table, the way she'd said it like a fact, not a secret. The realization that this hadn't been a one-time mistake, it had been a pattern. The supervised visits continued. They were tense now, awkward, heavy with rules and unspoken resentment. My daughter came back quieter each time, not sad exactly, but thoughtful in a way that didn't belong to a 6-year-old. One night as I tucked her in, she asked, "Is Daddy mad at me?" The question hit harder than anything said in court. "No," I told her immediately, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Daddy loves you very much." "Then why doesn't he live with us?" I didn't have an answer that wouldn't hurt her. So I told the truth, filtered through gentleness, that sometimes grown-ups make choices that mean they can't live together, that none of it was her fault. She nodded, accepted it, rolled over and fell asleep. I sat there long after, staring at the ceiling, wondering how easily children absorb fractures adults spend years denying. The financial reality started closing in too. Legal fees stacked up faster than I wanted to admit. The house would likely have to be sold. My retirement, something I'd built quietly over years of work, would be split. The math was brutal. There was no version of this where I walked away whole. Some nights, I wondered if I'd done the right thing. Not about leaving, about how fast I'd escalated it, about involving lawyers immediately, about calling the police. The doubt whispered in the dark. What if you overreacted? What if you could have handled this privately? What if you broke your own family? Then my daughter would say something small that snapped me back. Like the morning she asked very seriously, "Is Aunt Melissa coming back?" My stomach dropped. "Why do you ask?" I said carefully. "Daddy said she's his special friend," she replied. "Like how you're my special person." I felt cold spread through my chest. What else had he said? "She makes him happy when he's sad," my daughter continued, "and that sometimes grown-ups need different special friends." That night I cried. Not loud, not dramatically, just silently, with my hand over my mouth so my daughter wouldn't hear. Because this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. He was rewriting reality for our child, teaching her to normalize something she was never supposed to carry. I called my lawyer the next morning. Her response was immediate. "Document that," she said. "We'll request all visits be recorded." That was my breaking point. The moment I accepted that the man I married, the man I'd trusted to protect our daughter, was now someone I had to protect her from. I wasn't just exhausted. I was grieving. Grieving the marriage I thought I had. Grieving the father I thought my daughter had. Grieving the version of myself who believed love and good intentions would be enough. And for the first time since this started, I felt truly alone. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It unfolded in pieces, documents, testimony, quiet confirmations that stacked until denial was no longer an option. The custody evaluator's report had already shifted the ground beneath us, but the divorce hearing was where everything crystallized. By then, the supervised visits had changed again. They were recorded now, every word, every pause, every attempt to steer conversation. My husband adjusted his behavior immediately, less probing, more performative warmth, the kind that looked good on paper. But the damage was already done. In court, his lawyer leaned hard into the narrative they'd built, that I was cold, absent, career-focused to a fault, that his affair was a symptom, not a choice, that my reaction, leaving immediately, calling a lawyer, involving police, proved I was vindictive and unstable. I sat there and listened. I didn't interrupt. I didn't flinch. When it was our turn, my lawyer didn't argue emotion. She argued facts. The recordings. The police report from my parents' house. Photos of the destroyed home office. The journal entry naming Melissa as the voice pushing him to fight harder. Statements from my parents and my brother describing his volatility. Then the evaluator spoke. 3 hours of interviews with each of us. Observations, consistency, parenting history, stability. Her recommendation was clear. Joint legal custody, primary physical custody with me. Supervised visits for him to continue until he demonstrated stability, without Melissa present. The courtroom went very quiet. My husband didn't look angry. He looked stunned, as if he'd walked in believing biology would outweigh behavior. That being a father automatically protected him from consequence. His lawyer objected. Claimed bias. Claimed I'd manipulated the process. The judge cut her off. "This court doesn't reward entitlement," he said evenly. "It protects children." Temporary orders were finalized. I would return to the marital home after my husband vacated. He had 2 weeks to find alternative housing. Supervised visits would remain in place. That was when he lost control. He stood up, voice raised, accusing the judge of prejudice, accusing me of sabotage. His lawyer grabbed his arm, whispering urgently. The bailiff stepped forward. One more outburst, the judge warned, and he'd be held in contempt. Outside the courthouse, he tried one last time. "This isn't fair," he said, stepping toward me. "You hired a shark to destroy me." "I documented what happened," I replied. "That's all. You're going to keep my daughter from me." "No," I said. "The court decided how visits work. Follow the order." He kept shouting as my brother stepped between us. Promises of appeals, threats of regret, claims that this wasn't over. Maybe it wasn't. But something fundamental had shifted. Not in him. In me. I wasn't waiting for him to understand anymore. I wasn't hoping he'd take accountability. I wasn't trying to preserve the version of our family that only existed if I ignored reality. I was done negotiating with denial. That night, back at my parents' house, my daughter slept peacefully. My mom had made dinner. My dad sat with me at the table long after the plates were cleared. "You did right by her," he said quietly. It didn't feel like winning. But for the first time, it felt like standing on solid ground. The fallout didn't arrive dramatically. It arrived in paperwork, schedules, financial statements, and quiet losses that didn't make noise, but weighed just as much. The court's temporary orders became daily reality faster than I expected. My husband moved out of the house under supervision. I didn't watch him pack. My lawyer advised against it. Instead, I waited until the house was empty, then walked through it alone for the first time since that night. It felt chuj, not vandalized anymore, but hollow, like a place that had already decided it didn't belong to the past version of us. The house would have to be sold eventually. That was unavoidable. The judge made it clear. Assets would be split, retirement accounts divided. No moral victory would change the math. And the math was brutal. Between legal fees, already climbing past $20,000, and the coming asset split, I could see the future clearly. Smaller home, tighter margins, starting over financially in my late 30s. My lawyer didn't sugarcoat it. "You'll lose money," she said. "Probably a lot of it." "But my daughter?" I asked. She's protected. That was the trade. The supervised visits continued to unravel. The first one after court went fine on paper. The second raised concerns. By the third, my mom noticed the same pattern again. Subtle comments, emotional pressure disguised as reassurance. You miss Daddy, right? You wish things were like before? You know Mommy made this harder than it had to be. My mom documented everything. So did I. Then came the call that changed the tone of everything again. My husband's sister reached out, hesitant, apologetic. Melissa's been staying with him, she admitted. She's telling him he'll get everything back once the divorce is final. That courts always reverse decisions. That you'll crack. I felt nothing when she said it. Just clarity. The woman he'd chosen wasn't supporting him. She was fueling him. In court filings that followed, his lawyer accused me of vindictiveness, claimed I was weaponizing the system, claimed my husband's courtroom outburst was the result of emotional distress caused by me stealing his child. The judge wasn't impressed. The next hearing was brief, efficient, cold. The supervised visit stayed. My husband's frustration escalated instead. He sent messages he shouldn't have, long rants, accusations, threats wrapped in self-pity, then apologies, then rage again. I didn't respond. My lawyer told me silence was evidence, and it was. The final custody hearing came 3 months later. By then, everything was on record. The evaluator's recommendation held. Joint legal custody. Primary physical custody with me during the school year. Alternating weekends and one weekday evening for him. Summers split. Future modification only after demonstrated stability. My husband was furious. But this time, he stayed seated. The divorce finalized 2 weeks later. The house sold for less than we'd hoped. After the mortgage and fees, we each walked away with just over $100,000. My retirement took a 40% hit. Money I'd spent years building, gone in a single judgment. I didn't fight it. I just wanted it finished. I rented a townhouse close to my parents. 3 bedrooms, nothing fancy. My daughter helped choose furniture for her room. Purple walls, butterfly stickers, a space that felt new and safe. We made it an adventure. My husband moved into a small apartment across town. The supervised visits gradually became unsupervised after he completed court-ordered therapy and parenting classes. The therapist's report said he was processing events, but stopped short of accountability. Melissa disappeared from the picture soon after. According to my sister-in-law, once the reality of child support, shared custody, and a permanent co-parent entered the conversation, she left. Too much baggage, she'd said. I wasn't surprised. Affair partners rarely stay when fantasy collapses into responsibility. My daughter adjusted faster than I did. She started calling the townhouse our house, started sleeping through the night again. Her therapist said she was doing remarkably well. No signs of lasting trauma, just normal adjustment. One night, after her first overnight at her father's place, she asked me, "Why doesn't Mommy live with us anymore?" I answered carefully. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that mean they can't live together, but we both love you very much. She nodded, accepted it, asked for a snack. That's when I understood the fallout wasn't just about what we lost. It was about what we chose to protect. Life didn't snap back into place after the divorce. It softened into something quieter, more deliberate. The weeks after everything finalized were strangely calm. No more court dates, no more filings, no more waiting for the next blow to land. Just schedules, routines, and the slow work of rebuilding a life that looked nothing like the one I'd imagined, but felt more honest than the one I'd lost. My daughter settled into our new rhythm quickly. School in the mornings, dinner together every night, homework at the kitchen table, bedtime stories that she insisted we read twice. On the weekends she was with her father, I learned how to sit with the silence instead of fearing it. At first it was unbearable. I kept wanting to fill the space, clean something, fix something, prove something. Eventually, I learned to let it be. Co-parenting was functional. We texted about school schedules and doctor's appointments. We sat several seats apart at school events. We took photos together when our daughter asked, even though my body tensed every time. At her school musical, she spotted both of us in the audience and beamed like the sun had just come out. Afterward, my parents joined us for pictures. My mom gently positioned us. Me, my daughter, her father. For a moment, we looked like a family again. Later that night, my daughter said, "That was fun. We were all together." She wasn't wrong. We were just a different kind of family now. One that worked because it was honest about its limits. My ex asked for a closure conversation about a month later, wanted me to understand his perspective, wanted forgiveness. I told him I understood it. I just didn't excuse it. That was the truth. I didn't hate him. I didn't love him. He was simply my daughter's father, the person I shared responsibility with, nothing more. Work stabilized. My finances tightened, but they were manageable. I stopped measuring my worth by what I'd lost and started measuring it by what I'd protected. My daughter thrived. That mattered more than retirement accounts or square footage or the version of marriage I'd once defended out of habit. Sometimes late at night, I still think about that dinner. The spaghetti, the clock ticking, the moment a 6-year-old spoke a truth adults had been avoiding. Would I change anything? No. Walking out that night wasn't dramatic. It was necessary, because ignoring betrayal doesn't protect children. Avoiding conflict doesn't create stability. And staying quiet doesn't make the truth disappear. If there's one lesson I carry forward, it's this. Document everything. Get good legal advice early. And when it comes to your kids, choose safety over comfort every single time. The rest figures itself out. My daughter called me from her father's place tonight just to say goodnight. Told me she loved me. Told me she couldn't wait to come home and show me the art project she made. That's what matters. Everything else is just noise. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Stories like this aren't easy to tell or to hear, but they matter. Because behind every legal filing, every custody order, every quiet dinner table moment, there's a child who didn't ask for any of it, and an adult trying to do the best they can with the truth they're given. If you've been through something similar, betrayal, divorce, choosing between peace and pretending, you're not alone. And if you're still in the middle of it, I hope this story reminds you that protecting your child and yourself is never the wrong choice. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment below. Your experiences, your thoughts, your support, they help more people than you realize. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories about love, betrayal, family, and the hard choices that change us. Until next time, take care of yourself and choose what keeps you safe.